Okay, cool.
Oh, God. Oh, it's happening already. We're live after 4 seconds. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another DigitalLieder Salon with me, Simon Walfish.
And me, Edward Rushton.
This is our first ever DigitalLieder Salon live broadcast. We're very excited. This is going up live on our YouTube channel and will be shortly uploaded also onto the Facebook page, DigitalLieder Salon. This is our 11th episode, I think, Edward. And we've been so thrilled to hear from everybody. And thank you so much for those of you who've been in touch with us. And thank you also for those of you who support this program. You can always get in touch with us at any time using the hashtag DigitalLieder Salon. You can get in touch via Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So almost there's no excuse whatsoever. You can also support this program if you enjoy it. So you can go on to PayPal and support us on PayPal. That's just here's the link for that, paypal.me/Simon Walfish. Make sure you put in a reference, DigitalLieder Salon, so Edward and I can share your generous donation. Otherwise, I will pocket the lot. Poor Edward won't get any of that. And another way you can support us is, of course, buying one of our CDs, which you can do by going to the website, simonwalfish.com/store. And again, depending on which CDs you buy, Edward and I will also share the profits of that. So I know it looks like I'm taking all of your money, but it's just that they all seem to be associated with my websites. But Edward Rushton and I have been working together for 10 years now, haven't we, Edward?
Yes.
And still going strong.
Yeah, we are. And today we're going to mark a very special event from our career that we've had together over the last 10 years. The first ever CD that we made together was of songs by the British composer Geoffrey Bush. And here it is. We recorded this on the DigitalLieder label back in 2014.
Wow. I thought it was 2016. That's 6 years ago.
Time flies, you see.
Amazing.
So we thought we would talk about Geoffrey Bush today. And I find that it's very special when I think of the songs that we recorded back then, because it was our first CD together. And my heart goes all warm when I think about it. And preparing this show today, I listened to the CD again, and I was just really bowled over because there's such great songs. And it's a long time ago, so I'd sort of forgotten a lot of them. But to refamiliarize myself with them all was a great pleasure.
Did any of them stick out for you, Edward?
Well,
that's not a leading question. But,
I particularly enjoyed listening to the Greek love songs, and we've decided to talk about that cycle in a bit more detail today. And the other song that I was incredibly impressed by, again, and I was when we recorded them too, is The End of Love, which is one of the rare cycles that Bush wrote to contemporary poems, in that case by Kathleen Raine. That was in 1954, it says here. I hope that's right. But the Greek love songs that we're going to talk about today were composed in 1964. Again, I'm taking my information from the back of the CD, so it should be correct.
It better be correct.
But before we talk about the songs, Simon, why don't you introduce our guests?
Yes, so for the first time ever, it's taken us 10 episodes to finally think of some people that we want to have on our show. And who better than to celebrate Geoffrey Bush's 100th birthday this year, 2020, by then inviting his widow, Julie Bush, and his son, Paul Bush. So without further ado, I will click here and fingers crossed. Thus they appear. Hello. Paul and Julie, welcome to DigitalLieder Salon.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
We may have a bit of internet problems, but we'll just try and ride over them and keep going. Julie, first of all, it's really wonderful to see you. And we used to be neighbours in Corringham Road in London for many years. And that's how we came across each other and also your husband's music. And I wonder if there's anything you want to tell us about Geoffrey Bush that springs to mind about what he was like as a person, first of all. We'll go into him as a musician. Oh, and that was it. We'll never know. Hopefully they'll come back. But yeah, this is...
Yeah, I'd forgotten there was that personal connection that you used to be neighbours.
Well, not only were we neighbours, but my grandfather, Kenneth Hunt, was actually roommates with Geoffrey Bush at Cambridge University. You're back again, Julie. I'm sorry. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about Geoffrey. What do you remember about him? Well, obviously you remember a lot, but what do you remember about his personality?
Well, I certainly remember him composing, of course, because we had sort of music in the house all the time. Sometimes very pleasant, and sometimes if he got stuck over something, awful repeats of the same sort of thing over and over again till he got it right. And I always think, I mean, especially with you two, I think that his special gift, I think, was setting words. And I think he...
Well, unfortunately, we lost them again, but Geoffrey Bush was a prolific composer of song and choral works, wasn't he, Edward?
Yes. Yeah, so we chose lots of songs for the CD, and it was a great pleasure to examine his oeuvre over the. Wait a minute, let me get this right. The first songs that we recorded were from 1944, and we also had some songs from 1981 on the CD. So that's over 40 years of songwriting. So Julie, was this always a preoccupation of Geoffrey's with song, with setting texts?
Was he always preoccupied with setting texts?
Yes. We had masses of poems in the house, of anthologies, and we used both go through them over and over looking for words. And I think he did especially love doing it. I know on one occasion I came back from work and he said, "I've got a terrible thing to confess. I've written a song." Because I think in those early days, he always felt he ought to be writing great symphonies and things. And he felt it was a self-indulgent to write songs, as indeed it was, because he loved doing it. I think that was in a way, his biggest gift. I don't know what you two think, because you've done wonderful performances of his songs.
Well, I think you
Definitely
can absolutely tell, because I mean, I didn't know him, unfortunately, but the personality just oozes out of the songs, and you can tell how much he must have enjoyed setting those poems. It's just that you can feel the joy that he must have had while composing, while learning and getting to love the poems that he chose, that you two chose together.
Yeah,
it just
true.
it just really comes across. Also, the great sense of humor. And I remember when we were preparing this CD, we talked to you, Julie, about him. And one of the features that you most fondly remembered was his sense of humor. And I feel that this is an aspect that comes across incredibly well in these songs. Not all of them, of course. Some of them are deeply serious. But when he pulls out the stops of just joyous fun, it's such a pleasure to play and sing and listen to. I wonder if you can tell us about his sense of humor.
Well, what about you, Paul? What was his sense of humor?
Yeah, I mean, he loved very English style, I guess English style humour. I mean, pre-Monty Python, because of his generation. So he loved the Goon Show. He loved limericks. I remember going on long walks with him, and he'd always be composing limericks in his head. And we'd always know when he was doing it, because he'd always go,
yes.
We'd hear this sound that he made as he walked. We knew he was going to come out with a limerick based on something we'd just seen or discussed. I think he was. He had a very good sense of humour, and as I said, a very English kind of surreal Goon Show. And he loved P.G. Wodehouse. He loved the Marx Brothers, and this kind of humour.
As a musician, he was busy composing, but he also had a day job, didn't he, teaching at, was it Morley College? Or he did a lot of teaching as well.
King's.
King's.
At King's, yeah.
King's College. And I was just saying just before, or I think whilst you were cut off, that we have a family connection, because wasn't he the best man at my grandparents' wedding, or was it the other way around? And wasn't Kenneth Hunt his roommate at university?
That's right. Yes, that's right. I mean, that's how I got to know Geoffrey, because Kenneth married Tamara, who was a great friend of mine, a student with me. And so I got to know Geoffrey through Ken, really.
Wow. So actually, Paul, my family is responsible for your birth.
That's right.
Well, thanks for that, Simon.
That's all right. Anytime. Sorry.
I didn't know
Isn't
that.
grateful.
Amazing.
I
Yes,
have can I pop up with my family connection here as well, which I wasn't aware of. I knew that Geoffrey and my father were acquainted, but I was looking through the music in preparation for this show today, and I found this volume of songs by Geoffrey Bush. Open front cover. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's signed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it's inscribed to, for Julian and Virginia Rushton, that's my mum and dad, with best wishes, May 1986. So there we are. So that was very
I'm
makes me
sure
very
Julian
happy.
is watching right now.
He's a big fan of our show, my dad. So if he's watching now, hi, Dad.
Is he one of the 5 you mentioned?
He's one of the 5.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
We've got a faithful 5 who watch it live, and then it creeps up. But anyway, I mean, it's just I'm so thrilled that we can chat to you both today. And what we usually do now in our shows is then actually go into some detail into one of the songs. So if you're happy to sit tight, we're going to start looking at the Greek love songs. And we'll bring you in, Paul and Julie, again, just towards the end in about 15 minutes, if that's okay. So please don't run away, but you definitely have time to pour a whiskey if you want to. So Edward, so we're looking at the Greek love songs, which is a group of 7 poems by the ancient Greek poet Meleager, or Meleager, is that right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about the poetry?
Yes, he was from the 2nd century BCE, and was quite a witty poet. The poem's very epigrammatic, very very short, very very humorous, and mostly concerned with love, erotic love, and the tribulations thereof. So Geoffrey Bush found some excellent modern translations by Dudley Fitz, an American scholar and translator of ancient Greek texts. This translation came out in the 1950s or 60s, and the translation by Dudley Fitz is of what's known as the Greek anthology, which was one of the earliest compilations of ancient Greek poems, and partly responsible for that was Meleager himself. And so there are a lot of his poems in this set of ancient Greek poems. And Geoffrey Bush found most of the poems are to do with one of his lovers, one of Meleager's lovers, that is to say, Heliodora. Heliodora means a gift from the sun.
Gift of the sun, yeah. I must have seen the same Wikipedia article, Edward.
Meleager had several lovers, boys and girls, and these ones are all concerned with Heliodora. So it gives a nice unity to the cycle, but it's not all beer and skittles, because Heliodora also in turn had many lovers, and in the songs that we're going to talk about today, Meleager, poor guy, is imagining her in the arms of one of her other lovers. In fact, Geoffrey Bush, in a CD booklet note to another recording of these songs, I found some texts by him one in my research the other day, which said that, yes, he thought Heliodora was probably, given that she had so many lovers, she may even have been a professional. But this didn't prevent our hero, Meleager, or Meleager's lyrical persona, being extremely jealous and desiring her for himself. So what we have is, in amongst the love songs that are in praise of her beauty, that, for example, the second song in the cycle is comparing her to flowers, and how he would like to give her lots of flowers as a gift on her hair, scatter the bright petals on her hair. But then the third song, which we would like to talk about now, a curse, suddenly it turns full face, and he's imagining her in the arms of another lover.
Why don't we jump in now, Edward? And I think we can use the power of the internet to completely screw up our usually perfect duo partnership, and perhaps just do together up to Komodo, so where you're playing these chords. So this is the beginning of a curse, and I'll read the text very quickly whilst you shift around on your piano stool. This thing I pray, dearest night, mother of all the gods, this thing only I pray, holy propitious night. If another man lies with her now, close clasped beneath her cloak, is touching her, Heliodora, Heliodora, the sweet despair of sleep. Then let the lights go out, let his heavy eyes fail him, let him fall asleep locked in her arms, a second Endymion. This thing I pray, dearest night. This thing only I pray, holy propitious night. And I'm also now a Wikipedia Greek scholar, and Endymion is was somebody who fell asleep and stayed asleep forever in order to preserve his gorgeous young good looks. So he doesn't want the lover of Heliodora to die. He just wants him to go to sleep forever.
He wants him to fall asleep so that he will be, impotent. So that the Heliodora will still be in his arms, but he won't be able to satisfy her. There is, in fact, a version of the Endymion story that I found where, in fact, Selene, the goddess of the moon who desired Endymion, still, even though he was asleep, managed to have 50 of his children. 50. So I think, obviously, Meleager didn't know that version of the story, because in his imagination, he's just falling asleep and incapable of satisfying Heliodora. So
let's have a go.
Let's have a go at the beginning. Yeah.
This thing I pray, dearest night, mother of all the gods. This thing only I pray, holy propitious night.
And so on. So yeah, it's a kind of it is a prayer, but it's a very sinister sort of prayer. You can hear it in the nasty juxtaposition of two minor triads, the sort of the worm of jealousy biting away at his heart there. But the melody is very, very prayerful. So there's a lovely mixture there. It's a beautiful contrast between the pained emotion that gives rise to his jealousy to the song, and the way he sings a prayer to the night.
And would you play, Edward, now a little bit of how Geoffrey Bush sets the mood of the growing angst and enormous worm of jealousy that goes around?
He, as many people will know who imagine the person they love in the arms of somebody else, he really visualizes it very precisely. If another man lies with her now, close clasped beneath her cloak, is touching her, he really goes a little bit too far in imagining very pictorially what they're up to. And Bush sets this extremely beautifully with these sort of tense syncopations, close clasped, and it winds up the tension like this. 7/4 time. If another man lies with her now, if another is touching her now.
Then let the lights go out. Let his heavy eyes fail him. Let him fall asleep, locked in her arms, a second Endymion. This thing I pray, dearest night, this thing only I pray, holy propitious night.
Exactly. So there we are. It comes full circle at the end, and
but you know what Julie was saying earlier, you know, his absolute love of setting words and complete instinct. You know, some composers just have an instinct for it, and Bush was definitely one of them who gets it and gets the whole thing of building the tension in the piano, and actually so much of the well of emotion and drama is happening in the piano part, and the voice just has to slice through like a knife. And
yeah, that's right. The word setting is extremely clear, extremely honest. There's no sort of artificiality about it whatsoever, which is perfect, of course, for this Greek poet who's writing extremely clear words, extremely aphoristic sort of poetry, with an absolutely clear story. You know, there's no fuzzying. What's the word? There's no sort of soft focusing or making it sort of palatable. It's extremely direct, extremely honest, and also an extremely good structure. The song starts and ends with this prayer, with this sinister sort of prayer, and the middle section is the fantasy of the lover with somebody else, and there's the grand gesture as well. That caps it. The high point of the song is very sort of dramatic dissonance. You know, so he runs the whole gamut of emotion. The sort of the sleeping, can't sleep, imagining, and it explodes, and then returns to the mood of the beginning. So it's a very short song, but brilliantly done.
Let's move on to the next song. It's called The Mosquito. So even in ancient Greece, they had mosquitoes, and they were just as much of a pest then as they are now. And Bush sets this absolutely brilliantly. Lots of long trills and tremolando. He gives the voice a chance to do some really cool buzz chirr as well, which is it's great to have heard Paul, Geoffrey Bush's son, just now earlier. If you've just tuned in, he was saying how his father had such a good sense of humor, and you could really hear that humor in this writing here. Edward, do you want to? Why don't we have a go? I think I could manage this together, despite the delay.
I just love to talk about that. It's such a brilliant, very witty poem, because normally a poet will try and give a message to his or her lover through a stream or a bird or a cloud or the moon, and here it's a mosquito, and he says, go to her and whisper in her ear that I am languishing for her, but what is it? Yes, and it's so nice. He's a sweet musician. The mosquito is a musician. Yeah, so he's transferring his thoughts via the music of the mosquito into his lover's ear. But he mustn't wake her, because if he wakes her, then she will, the lover will wake up in order to slap her and then hurt her.
I'll slap the mosquito on her face.
The funniest thing is, it is really, really funny and slightly pathetic of the poet. He says, well, if you can't do that, if you can't tell her this message, then bring her here. Bring Heliodora to me now, mosquito. So you have this image of his fantasies that this little mosquito gets Heliodora on his back and flies back to Meleager, where he's lying, waiting for her. And then he says, the reward you will get if you do this is I will give you Herculean properties. I will give you Hercules' club, and you'll be strong enough to slay a lion with this club. And it's just such a surreal image. And of course, Geoffrey Bush sets it absolutely brilliantly. There's this sort of incredible joy and fun in his setting of those images. The mosquito singing, and the mosquito being Hercules, carrying her home to him, and then being rewarded with these attributes of strength. Okay, so we try and sing the beginning.
Maybe the first 3 lines, yeah. We always have to choose bits that don't need too much ensemble, because there's about a half-second delay between us, as you may have noticed. Fly to her swiftly, fly, mosquito, bearing my greeting. Perch on the tip of her ear and whisper it to her. Say, he lies waiting.
So I don't think we can do this bit.
Can't do that bit. Yeah. But this is so cool, because he lies waking, longing for you. All of these really slight the kind of chromatics that you can't do on a piano, but you can do on a string instrument or on a voice, where you're just slightly in between the notes, in this kind of uncomfortable, which is, it's the perfect feeling of you're half asleep and you can hear a mosquito in the room, and can you really be bothered to turn the light on and look for it and spend half the night throwing books at it. Edward.
Yeah, there's a great, I love when he says, oh, bring me the girl herself, mosquito, and I will crown your head with the lion's mane. And then you get this march, you get a sort of ancient Greek hero's march. I will crown your head and give you strong Heracles' bludgeon to brandish in your paw. So there's this really pretty sort of the march, and so you can hear the poet really getting into his stride. He imagines the mosquito bringing Heliodora back to him. It starts kind of miniature with this sort of like a Tchaikovsky toy march or something. And it gets bigger and bigger. Give you strong Heracles' bludgeon to brandish in your paw. And then it has this very, very brilliant ending, where you have the strength of Heracles and the killing a lion, and then the mosquito going at the end. So it's as if so Geoffrey Bush has put words into the mosquito's mouth, if they have mouths, and saying, "Sorry, mate, I can't do that. I'm just a mosquito."
He's off. There's so many more songs in this set, Greek love songs. There's 7 poems here, and we don't have time today to go into all of them, but the last one, the poet's epitaph, is really worth listening to. And all of these songs, I think, are available also on YouTube. If you just type it in, I think all of these, our recordings has been uploaded automatically onto YouTube. So do have a look after this broadcast. The poet's epitaph is Meliaga's own text, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant poem, and Geoffrey Bush sets it phenomenally well, just like the rest of it. And of course, on our CD of Geoffrey Bush songs, there are many other settings and many other poems that have not been set by other composers, including some medieval lyrics, medieval songs. What else? Edward, can you just give us a quick rundown, and then I'm going to bring Julie and Paul back in, and we can all say goodbye.
Rundown
of what else is on the CD.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of them are English poems from the Elizabethan era. And yes, you mentioned the medieval lyrics, which are a particular favorite because you had to learn how to pronounce medieval English. Yeah, it was fun.
I went back in time. It was really enjoyable.
And they're very humorous as well. There's a wonderful one where a monk is confessing to his priest, his abbot of the monastery, that he stole a kiss from a lady outside his window. He's confessing, but actually says, well, actually, I enjoyed it, and I would certainly do it again if the chance arose. So it's one of these lovely little humorous and erotic tales. And a particular favorite, again, I said that there were not very many contemporary poets that Geoffrey Bush set, but I mentioned the Kathleen Raine poems earlier, but there are also two poems that he set by Stevie Smith, who's one of my favorite British poets. And they're very strange. The one about cats. Anyway, so that's a favorite of mine. But we don't have time to go into that in depth.
Julie, I wanted to ask you before we wind up, is there any song of Geoffrey Bush's that sticks in your mind as a particular favorite for you?
Any song that's your favorite?
Oh, it's hard to say. I think the choice of the Greek love songs was marvelous for this program because it showed such a range of Geoffrey, didn't it? Including the sort of humour of the mosquito. But I don't know. I love some of his song cycles very much. I love the Christmas cantata. There's such a lot. Such a lot. And what you say about him really matching the words. I remember when we were looking for words, he was never at all hesitant. He knew at once when he got the poem he wanted. And I don't think he ever chose something that didn't work, that he decided wasn't the right thing. And I found that quite interesting, reading poems with him. What immediately struck him, he must have already had something in his mind. You know, I remember the, what's the Blake, the tiger? It was he loved that. So, no, there's such a range to choose. But as I say, I think the Greek love songs are beautiful, and a beautiful example of his range of interest, really, and his humour as well as his melodies. And I must say, you perform them beautifully.
Thank you.
Even despite our 1,000 of miles difference. So just
I know. To me, this is absolutely my old-fashioned way. This is absolutely an extraordinary experience.
Well, Julie, it's really extraordinary for us, and I'm just so pleased that actually it also gives us the opportunity to join with you and do this event so easily. 3 different corners of Europe.
Are you still in England, Edward?
No, I'm in Switzerland. This is
of course, I remember
Swiss
that.
flat.
Yes, of course, I remember that.
Well, thank you so much, Paul and Julie, for joining us. And you know, Geoffrey Bush is a composer who deserves to be far better known. And I really hope that this year, 2020, which, despite the fact that worldwide at the moment concerts are not a given, we can't just put on concerts like we used to in the distant previous past, which seems to be like a different universe right now. But I'm so happy that we could at least mark his centenary in this way on DigitalLieder Salon, and I really look forward to actually performing some of his songs again, and we're just so thrilled that you could join us. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for doing it. Lovely.
And to our viewers and listeners, thank you very much for joining us on DigitalLieder Salon. And once again, we really do value your feedback. We'd love to hear from you, so please get in touch. Tell us what you like, and tell us what you don't like. We do get a lot of emails about things we don't like, including my use of GMT. So I now have understood that there's British summertime and Greenwich Mean Time. They're two different things. So DigitalLieder Salon, Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. in the UK, 7 p.m. on the continent. And we're always really thrilled to have you. And remember, you can always support us by going to paypal.me/Simon Walfish, put in DigitalLieder Salon in your payment, and we will share it between us. Edward and I really value that support as well. And please do share this video and subscribe to our channels. Edward Rushton also has a fabulous channel where he's doing concerts from his cellar. Tell us a little bit about your concert hall in your cellar, Edward, before we go.
A wine cellar from the 17th century, and there's a little stage and some chairs and a little piano, and we do concerts there when there are concerts, but I've been doing some recordings, piano pieces and songs with friends. So
definitely look at Edward Rushton's channel for some of those pieces. And thank you very much. And so this is Geoffrey Bush. Look him up. Listen.
And we're going to do the poet's epitaph, yeah?
Oh, are we? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that was the idea. So
I totally forgot that.
This is the last song in the cycle, Greek love songs. And Meleager is imagining himself dead. And in the beautiful way that some poets do, they write a beautiful epitaph for their tombstone. It tells us about where he comes from, where he lived, and about his poetry. And he has a greeting for any passers-by who might stop by and look at his grave.
Here we go, the poet's epitaph. O stranger, pass by. Here sleeps an old man, cradled with the holy dead, in the common silence. Meleagros, Eucrates' son, who joined in song, sweet crying love, with the muses and smiling graces, him divine Tyre and gathered a sacred land, sheltered to manhood. But his old age was nursed by lovely course of the Meropes. And now, O friend, Shalom, if you are a Syrian, if Phoenician, Dios, but if Greek, farewell, farewell. And give me back the same. Well, that worked quite well for a Zoom music making. Thank you very much. That was Geoffrey Bush's epitaph from his Greek love songs. Please do take a look, take a listen. There's some wonderful music to discover there. So I really look forward to hearing from our listeners. Please let us know which pieces of Geoffrey Bush you've heard now for the first time, and let us know, and let's share it all. Thank you very much, Julie and Paul, for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Edward, and I'll say goodbye.
Okay,
Bye.
goodbye everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.